whatever you do with that pain of feeling hurt about what you've done, that's what matters. And what I mean by that is, if you know you made a mistake, at the end of the day, you need to realize that you can be somebody else. You do not have to hold yourself to this mistake you've made. You don't have to make mistakes. Do not define who you are. It does not define who you are. Hey guys, it's Aliesha, or you can call me Lai. How are y'all today? I know I look a little different for the people that actually are subscribed. I got braces. Oh my god. I feel like my younger high school self. Oh my goodness. But that's besides the point. Today we are doing a video on how to forgive yourself. Yes, I'm excited. And we're also doing a get ready with me because I'm getting ready for the day. I want to talk about just how to forgive yourself, because I think forgiving yourself is one of the hardest things that you kind of have to go through when you are embarking on anything in life, honestly. But it's specifically when I started to embark on like my self-love journey, that was one of the hardest things that I had to do, was face myself. I talk about it a lot in my other videos, but this one is just like specifically tailored to forgiving yourself. But I want to first talk about, and I have my notes like right here on my little tray, so I want to talk about the feelings that actually come with everything when it comes to like facing yourself, forgiving yourself. So when I was first embarking on my journey of just loving myself, self-improving everything, I realized that I had a lot of things within myself that I didn't forgive myself with, or like things that I've hurt myself with, or particular things that I did and actions that I did or mistakes that I did that I used to just beat myself up about it. And this was like early on when I was first learning. And when you embark on like a self-love journey or a healing journey or any kind of journey, you realize that there are things within yourself that you have not forgiven, or people that you haven't forgiven, or it's really mainly yourself, or even just things that you kind of blame yourself for, even though it might not even be your fault, or things that were your fault and that you haven't forgiven yourself for because you kind of don't understand yourself in this moment. And that's just life in general. Like, there are going to be things and mistakes that you make that aren't going to particularly make sense to you, or you kind of understand why you don't understand why you've done it, but like it's gonna hurt, right? And when I first started, I didn't know I had so much emotion towards my towards the mistakes that I've made and towards the things that I've done, that I was angry. And that's what I want to talk about, the feelings that are associated with the mistakes that you've made in the past. When you've made a mistake in your life, any kind of mistake, whatever it is, say maybe you tolerated something in the past that you shouldn't have tolerated, or maybe you did something in the past that your new self wouldn't even do anymore, or maybe you went out for something and it didn't work out, and now you're being like, oh my god, I'm so stupid, why did I do that, I wasn't smart, like all this negative self-talk. And the feelings that are associated with not forgiving yourself and the mistakes you've made, you feel guilt, you feel shameful, you feel angry. But yeah, you go through these emotions of feeling shameful, of feeling guilt, of feeling anger, of feeling sadness, of feeling like you want to just tear yourself down and be negative towards yourself, and because you don't understand why you've done what you've done, and you don't understand like why you did it, or maybe you particularly hurt somebody and you're like, why did I treat that friend that way, or why did I treat this person that way? And it's a hard pill to swallow, right? And a lot of the times when I first started this, I had such trouble acknowledging it. And that's what I want to talk about next, is like acknowledgement, because that's going to be one of my tips here on how to forgive yourself. And when I first struggled, like I struggled, and I didn't want to acknowledge it. I didn't want to acknowledge the pain that I put me through. I didn't want to acknowledge the feelings that I felt. I didn't want to acknowledge why I did what I did, because I was scared of the answer, or I was scared of, like, you know, you become scared of the answer. You become scared of who you are. You become scared of, like, making the mistakes again. You become like this person that's just like in fear of yourself, right? And anybody knows, like, if you ever had to face a mistake, especially when you still learning, like, the process of facing a mistake, it's very hard to forgive yourself, because you're like, you know yourself so much that we know ourselves more than we really think, but we know ourselves in our head to like this kind of, sometimes we know this false self. Oh my god, I cannot talk. Sometimes we know this like false self in our head that we've made up about ourselves. So when you come to a challenge, you're like, oh my god, like, I don't deserve to be forgiven, or I'm stupid, I shouldn't have did that, you know, I should have known better. But really, it's like, should you have known better? Should you? How do you know that you were supposed to know better, right? Then I kind of forgot my train of thought. So I think I was talking about acknowledgement. And yeah, it becomes hard to kind of sometimes acknowledge yourself and acknowledge the mistakes you've made. So you try to kind of hide and run away from yourself, and you don't want to sit down and think about these feelings. But that in itself is my first tip, is you gotta acknowledge the things that you've done, and you have to acknowledge the feelings and sit with them. Because when I was running away, when I was trying to hide from myself, when I was trying to like not think about the mistake I made, baby, I was stuck in the same place the whole time. Just stuck. And there's no growth or character. I want to say character development, because I think about myself as like I'm in a movie, right? There's no growth for somebody who's in a movie if they don't learn from their mistakes or their lessons, and they don't apply them to their life and move on from them and face them with a challenge. You know, have you ever watched that movie, Never Have I Ever? Not that movie, it's a show. And I know a lot of y'all watched it. Come on, I know I'm not the only one, but I love that show. And I just think about the character development of how she was just like always, you know, making these mistakes, and she was in therapy, and you know, she was really young, but like she was making mistakes and she was in therapy. And you know, I think about the first episodes where she was just kind of like running away from her problems and not acknowledging certain things. And then when she kept going to therapy and her therapist kept acknowledging and wanting to talk about certain things, at the end of the show, like, she became like this new developed person who actually like fell into herself and loved herself. I don't know if you've never seen the show, like, it's such a great show. I love shows like that, like, I don't know, like teen show. Okay, but I love shows like that, like teen shows that show like the character development. And I think that's how we have to kind of start thinking about ourselves, and that it's like we're in our own movie, because you know that thing like make yourself your main character, you're the main character of your life, right? And I think about it in like a story terms or a movie terms, and it's like, how could you grow in life if you never acknowledge yourself or acknowledge the feelings that come with what you've done, you know? And I think that I've been pondering a lot about why certain people don't change and why people don't like develop or grow in life. And I've just been thinking about, like, I think it's because people don't want to face themselves, and they don't want to face, hold on, I gotta be quiet. They don't want to face the mistakes they've made, and they don't want to, I love how I went right back into it, but they don't want to face the mistakes they've made. They don't want to face, this is going to be my second tip, is to face your trauma, because a lot of people do not want to face their trauma, and that's why you can't grow in life, because you don't face your trauma, or you don't face the mistakes you've made, or you don't face the things that people have done to you, because you don't want to acknowledge it, and you don't want to hurt from the pain. But that pain is what needs to drive you to become a different person, to become a better person. That it needs to drive you. And if you cannot acknowledge that, then you can't feel the pain. And if you can't feel the pain from what you've done or the mistakes you did, then you can't move on. I talked about this before in What They Don't Tell You About the Healing Journey video. If you want to go see that, I'll link it up above. But I talk about how there is no beauty that's going to come out of yourself if you do not have any kind of pain. And I truly believe, and I might be crazy for saying this, but I truly believe the reason why we go through a lot of pain in life, and the reason why we go through a lot of stuff, is because how can we ever find the beauty of the good if we always have good, you know? And how can you find the beauty in yourself if you don't know the side of you that isn't so good? And a lot of us, all of us, let's be clear, all of us have that side of us that isn't perfect, you know? That's going to be another tip for y'all, is to get to know yourself and to get to know that side of you that isn't so perfect. Because when you get to know yourself, you start to fall in love with yourself, and you realize that you deserve love, and you deserve to be forgiven, and you deserve to be forgiven for your mistakes. And going back into talking about your traumas and stuff, and acknowledging your traumas and facing your traumas and healing from your traumas and going back to therapy or going to therapy, when you do that too, you get to know why you've done a lot of the stuff that you've done in your life. Because a lot of times it has a root cause to it. And sometimes when you've made mistakes in your life, or you tolerated certain things in your life, or you hurt yourself countless of times over and over again by making the same mistake, or sometimes it has a root cause, and sometimes the root cause is because you went through childhood trauma. I believe that if you have some kind of acknowledgement towards the mistakes you've made, then you can grow from those mistakes, right? But no, by no means am I saying that the things that happened to you in childhood is your fault, because they weren't, but sometimes we operate off of like this fear, we operate off of anxiety, we operate off of like a lot of different things, and because of what happened to us maybe in childhood, or maybe even currently, the trauma that we've had, we start to do things that don't make a lot of sense, or maybe you're just trying to forgive yourself for going after something and it not working out. Maybe it has nothing to do with trauma, but it's more of like, you went after something you thought you could do, and maybe you've failed, and now you're like, dang, I've struggled with that too, struggled with feeling like, dang, I'm a failure. Why did I go after this thing? But that's another thing, is that anything you went after, anything that you've tried to make happen, isn't necessarily a failure, and it doesn't mean that you don't deserve forgiveness. It just means that maybe you learned a lesson out of it, and you've had to learn that lesson in order to make you a better person, in order for you to see the things that you needed in your life. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes when we do something and we learn a lesson from it, or we make a mistake, right, it's teaching us that, hey, okay, maybe I haven't quite healed from this thing yet. Or it's teaching us that a lesson learned, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this thing this way, maybe I need to do it another way. Or maybe it teaches you that you need to go back to therapy, or that maybe it was just for your character development. And remember, like, we're in our own movie, we're in our own movie, so like, you are the main character, and certain things happen and certain mistakes happen because you are learning how to be, the best version of yourself and the main character. And because of your character development, because you want to grow in life, and I'm assuming you want to grow because you're watching this channel, you have to go through certain things and mistakes that you have to make in order to become a better you, right? So basically all the tips I'm going to try to reiterate, but we're not done. We got some more stuff to talk about. Reiterate kind of what I just said, but acknowledging the feelings that you've had, sitting in those feelings and processing those feelings, it is not going to be an overnight thing. Sitting in your feelings is not an overnight thing, and forgiving yourself for what you've done isn't an overnight thing. It's not easy, it's not easy to face yourself and be like, self, like, why did you do that? It's not easy. And then even though you've acknowledged it, it's not an overnight thing. It's not an overnight thing where you're like, oh yeah, and realizing too, that's another thing too I want to talk about, is like The fact that you're not perfect, and we live in this imperfect society, so don't ever let anybody make you feel bad about the mistakes you've made, or make yourself feel bad about the things that you've done, because we all aren't perfect. And if somebody is trying to make you feel like you have to be perfect, or that you should have known better, baby, I'm sorry, but I didn't know better. And that's another thing too. Like, I know I'm all over the place with my tips, but I just want to give y'all everything that's coming out of my head right now. That's another thing too. Like, damn, I forgot what I was gonna say. What was I gonna say? That's another. What was I trying to say? Dang, why am I like this? Why am I like this? I think it's because I have so many thoughts in my head that I'm like, I gotta get it out, and then once I get it out, I'm like, what was I trying to get out again? Oh, but like, I think this is what I was trying to say. But just because somebody else knows something or knows better to do something, maybe that's something that they've learned in their life before you, or maybe that's something that they've gotten in their childhood that made more sense. But for you, it wasn't something that you learned, and now you're learning it now. And that's the thing that we have to realize, is life is a journey, and nobody is better than you, and nobody can tell you about yourself other than you. Like, and let me rephrase that, because sometimes I do think it's great if you have friends that do hold you accountable to mistakes that you've made. And we're going to talk about that later on towards the end of the video, about you know, acknowledging when people say you've hurt them. But yeah, like, if somebody does make you feel bad for that, realize that, you know, everybody is different, and everybody has their own story, and everybody has their own journey. And what somebody else knows, you might not have known. You might not have known that before. You might have a different story. You might have gone through a different thing. The thing is, everybody has their own trauma, and everybody has trauma, whether it's small or to you, or big to that another person. Everybody has some kind of trauma that they're trying to get past. So life is a whole journey, and you have to give yourself grace in a time where, you know, you feel like you can't forgive yourself. But along with grace, you also have to hold yourself accountable, and realize that what you do with whatever you do with that pain of feeling hurt about what you've done, that's what matters. And what I mean by that is, if you know you made a mistake, at the end of the day, you need to realize that you can be somebody else. You do not have to hold yourself to this mistake you've made. You don't have to make mistakes. Do not define who you are. It does not define who you are. And this, you are here, right? You are here. So this is not your end. This is not your end. You're here. You're watching this video. This isn't your end. And because of that, you have time to change. You have time to become the person that you want to be. And maybe you've hurt somebody and they won't let you back in their life, and that's completely fine too, because I'm an advocate for forgiving from afar. I'm an advocate for forgiving from afar, but also like walking away from people who've hurt you, because sometimes you just have to do that, right? So whether you've made a mistake and somebody won't let you back in their life, maybe you've hurt that person and you know you didn't really mean to, but you've done, that's okay. But you may not be able to move on with that same person or whatever you've done or whatever. Like, you may not be able to correct it in that way, but you will be able to correct it with yourself for other people and other things and other experiences in life. So don't ever think it's too late to forgive yourself, because it's not, you know. And you know, it's just all about sitting in that discomfort. It's all about sitting in that pain, because that's that's where that beauty is going to come from. It's through your pain, it's through your emotions, it's through your feelings about yourself. And you know, it's beautiful to be able to face yourself, because a lot of people can't. The fact that you're watching this video, that is a good sign, because that means that you are willing to change and you are willing to grow. And just know, like, it's what you do with that pain and what you do with that discomfort and what you do with that mistake, that's what matters, you know, at the end of the day. Whatever you've done, it was because of a reason. Or sometimes we're like, I don't know, I don't even know why I did that. And sometimes maybe you won't ever find out the reason, but you know what you don't want to be like now, because you made that mistake. You know exactly what you don't want to be like, and now you have a clear vision of who you want to be like, or what you want, what kind of person you want to be, whether it might be for yourself, for a friend, for, you know, a spouse. You learn these things because you are becoming yourself. You are discovering yourself. You are becoming the person that you are meant to be in this world. But you cannot become the person you want to be in this world without some kind of character development, without some kind of growth, without some kind of pain, without some kind of hurt. You cannot become that person. You can't. You just can't. It's not possible. I'm trying to stay on track. And now I want to talk about forgiveness and like other people. People that have come to you and they've said that you've hurt them. Because sometimes it's a mistake within other people that we are beating ourselves up about. I have a friend that is coming to you and like, hey, this hurt me. And what do you do when a friend does that? Do you deflect? Do you ignore them? Do you cut them off? How are you to this friend? And I want to talk about that because I've seen so many instances where people are like, just kind of like don't understand where their friend is coming from or their side of things. And this is not to not acknowledge your side of things too, but to realize that there are always, usually a lot of the time, sometimes when it's like a disagreement between you and your friend, sometimes there's two people wrong in a story, and you might be wrong, you wrong, and that person is wrong too. And if you are the type of person to throw something back in somebody's face, I can only imagine that you cannot forgive your own self. To acknowledge your friend or the person that is communicating with you that you hurt them is to acknowledge yourself. And if you cannot acknowledge somebody when they say that you've hurt them, and you can't say sorry, and you can't give a real apology, how do you acknowledge yourself? And what I mean by that is that when you accept that you may have hurt somebody, that you may have wasn't the best to somebody, and they're actually allowing you to apologize to them, you can start to see who you are and see why you've done the things that you've done. So if I've made a mistake and my friend comes to me and she's like, well, you hurt my feelings because you did this, this is my chance to change. This is my chance to grow from it. This is my chance to be a different person. This is my chance to say sorry and to prove to my friend that I could be a better friend. This is my chance to prove to myself that I can be a better person. And if I can't do that, I'm not acknowledging myself, and I'm not acknowledging the character development that I need in my life. So I never understand why. I understand that certain people do not like to admit where they're wrong, but a lot of the times admitting when you're wrong is where that growth will come from. You said I hurt your feelings, and I hurt your feelings. I'm gonna say sorry, okay? And I really wanted to talk about that because to acknowledge what you've done to somebody is to acknowledge yourself, and it's to forgive yourself and realize that you're not perfect. And yeah, like, I don't know if people would actually agree with that, but in my head I'm like, yeah, I know I probably got a big old line right here, because oh my god, my edges, y'all, I literally had to fix my edges because it was white, so I don't even know if it's gonna stay laid, but whatever. Yeah, let me make sure I hit all my points that I wanted to hit, girl, because sometimes I could be talking out of my head in these videos, and girl, why is my tray moving? Oh my god, this is so unprofessional. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to be professional, girl. Yeah, my edges are getting unprofessional. They kind of are, because what is that? But anyway, if you can't process your emotions, there is going to be no way that you can forgive yourself for the things that you've done. So stop hiding from yourself. You're not scary. You're not scary. You're not scary. Stop hiding from yourself. Stop hiding from yourself, because that is the only way to become the best version of yourself. You gotta stop hiding. And last, I want to talk about celebrating yourself, because I don't think we realize how much power there is in forgiveness and to acknowledge your mistakes and to grow. You gotta celebrate yourself, because guess what? Now you've just discovered something new about yourself. You've just discovered that you need to heal and change in this area. You need to grow in this area. And that deserves some celebration, because now you are going to be a whole different person and a better person. And if that doesn't deserve celebration, I don't know what does. Because you know how amazing it is to like discover yourself and to heal and to, you know, understand yourself. With that, you just become the most authentic version of yourself, and you're able to teach people how to treat you. You're able to love yourself the way you need to love yourself. You're able to walk away from people that don't deserve you. You're able to, you know, you're able to do all these things because of the fact that you acknowledge that, you know, that you have things to work on, and you acknowledge your pain and your, you know, how you feel. And you know, that's saying so much about yourself, because it's saying that, you know, that you show up for yourself and that you are important to yourself, you know. If you really value yourself and you believe that you're valuable and you want to show up for yourself, then you have to acknowledge yourself, and you have to stop hiding behind who you are and the things that you've done. Because like I said, mistakes don't define you. That's not who you are. You know, that's not who you are, but you have to stop hiding from it. You know? And you have to forgive yourself. Because nobody is perfect. And if anybody looks like they're perfect, girl, trust me. They are not. They are not. So celebrate the fact that you have things to work on just like anybody else. Always remember that every day is something different, and you can wake up today and be somebody else. And if you want to be somebody else, then baby, you gotta hold yourself accountable, and you gotta give yourself a whole bunch of grace, okay? And you have to forgive yourself for your mistakes, because you cannot move on from anything in life if you do not forgive yourself and the things that you've done. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.